There are things in this world that defy explanation, things that hide in the shadows just beyond the edge of our understanding. My work has always been about the darkness that lives within our own homes, the spirits that linger long after they have passed. But there is another kind of darkness, one that comes from much farther away. It comes from the cold, endless void of space. This darkness is not born of human tragedy or earthly malevolence. It is something else entirely, something alien. It is the fear of the unknown magnified 1,000,000 times over. The fear that we are not the masters of our own world, but merely small creatures living on a rock watched by eyes we cannot see. The year was 1976. The place, the remote Allagash waterway in Maine. Twin brothers Jack and Jim Weiner, Chuck Rack, Charlie Foltz. They embarked on a canoeing and camping trip, seeking adventure. Night fishing on Eagle Lake, not a star, not a plane, not anything they'd ever seen, a massive glowing orb pulsing with unnatural energy. The light hovered over the lake, casting a multicolored glow on the dark water. Complete terrifying silence. The men were mesmerized, then terrified. They paddled furiously toward shore. The light pursued them, moving with impossible speed and intelligence. A beam of intense light engulfed their canoe. Then everything went dark. Suddenly, they were back on shore. Their campfire was reduced to embers as if hours had passed. Disoriented, shaken, with no memory of how they returned. A profound unease, missing time. Then the nightmares began. All four had vivid dreams of being on a strange craft, surrounded by non-human figures. They dreamt of being examined. They dreamt of being studied like lab rats. Years later, they sought answers via hypnotic regression, separate sessions. Under hypnosis, the same chilling story emerged. The shared trauma of these four men points to a truth many fear to accept. On the evening of October 11, 1973, two shipyard workers, 42-year-old Charles Hickson and 19-year-old Calvin Parker, decided to go fishing off an old abandoned pier on the Pascagoula River in Mississippi. The night was quiet, the air still. But the peace was shattered by a low humming sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The two men looked up and saw an oval-shaped craft about 30 to 40 feet long, descending from the sky. It was bathed in a pulsating blue light, and it made no sound other than that deep, unsettling hum. It hovered just a few feet above the ground, silent and menacing. Before they could react, a doorway opened in the side of the object, and three figures emerged. They were about 5 feet tall with pale, wrinkled skin, no visible eyes. Heads fused to their shoulders. In place of hands, they had pincer-like claws. Two of the beings seized Hickson, while the third grabbed Parker, who fainted from sheer terror. Hickson described feeling completely paralyzed. He was floated, not walked, into the craft, his feet dragging along the ground. The air inside was cold and sterile. A large mechanical eye scanned his body from head to toe. He could hear the humming sound more intensely now, a vibration that went through his entire body. He couldn't scream. He couldn't move. He could only lie there and endure the silent, cold examination. After what felt like an eternity, he and the still unconscious Parker were floated back outside and left on the pier. The craft then shot straight up into the night and vanished. Shaking and hysterical, the two men drove to the local sheriff's office. Instead of conspiring to get their story straight, the tape revealed the men's raw fear. They were not drunk or seeking attention. They were traumatized. Stephen Steve Michalak was not a man prone to fantasy. He was a practical, down-to-earth industrial mechanic and amateur geologist. On May 20th, 1967, he was prospecting near Falcon Lake, Manitoba, Canada. He was alone, enjoying the solitude, when his attention was caught by the frantic cackling of nearby geese. He looked up to see two glowing, oval-shaped objects descending from the sky. One of them stopped high in the air and then disappeared, but the other continued its descent, landing on a large, flat rock about 150 feet away from him. It was a classic flying saucer, metallic and silent, with a brilliant purple light glowing from openings around its rim. Michalak, driven by a geologist's curiosity, spent the next half-hour sketching the object. He noted the smell of warm air and sulfur like burning electrical circuits. He could hear a soft whirring sound coming from within the craft. He reached out and touched its surface, which was so hot it melted the fingertips of his glove. Suddenly, a panel on the side of the craft slid open, revealing a brightly lit interior. He heard muffled, high-pitched sounds like voices coming from inside. Without warning, a blast of scorching hot gas shot out from this grid, hitting him directly in the chest. His shirt and undershirt burst into flames, and he was thrown backward by the force of the blast, writhing in agony. The craft then lifted off the ground and shot into the sky at an incredible speed. Left alone in the woods, Michalak was in excruciating pain. He stumbled, disoriented, vomiting, and suffering from severe burns. When he finally made it to a hospital, doctors were baffled. His chest was covered in a strange, grid-like pattern. They also found dangerously high levels of radiation at the site. Stefan Michalak's physical and psychological scars were a testament to his terrifyingly close encounter with a technology far beyond our own. The story of Travis Walton is, honestly, one of the most famous and well-documented abduction cases in history. It all began on November 5, 1975, in the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest in Arizona. Walton was part of a 7-man logging crew just heading home after a long day's work. They suddenly saw a strange, bright light coming through the trees. They slowed down and, saw a large, metallic, saucer-shaped object hovering silently about 20 feet off the ground. A small human figure just dwarfed by this immense otherworldly machine. Travis Walton jumped out and ran towards the object. He stood beneath the craft, looking up in awe. Suddenly, a brilliant beam of blue-green light shot out from the bottom of the saucer and struck Travis. Believing he was dead, the other 6 men panicked and sped away. When the men returned, Travis was gone. There was no sign of him, no trace of the craft, nothing. They immediately reported the incident to the police, launching one of the largest manhunts in Arizona history. The loggers were subjected to intense interrogations and polygraph tests. To the astonishment of the investigators, 5 of the 6 men passed their lie detector tests with flying colors. For 5 days, there was no sign of Travis Walton. He was presumed dead. Then, on the night of November 10th, his brother-in-law received a frantic phone call. It was Travis, calling from a gas station. He was found huddled in a phone booth, dehydrated, confused, and wearing the same clothes he had disappeared in. He had lost 10 pounds and had no memory of the past 5 days, save for frightening, fragmented images. He remembered being in a room with strange, short beings with large, dark eyes. The case of Travis Walton remains a profound mystery, a story of missing time and a terrifying glimpse into a reality that exists just beyond our own. A reality where human beings can be taken from the world in the blink of an eye. Most of the time, these encounters happen to 2. The location was the Ariel school just outside Rua, Zimbabwe. During their morning recess, 62 schoolchildren were playing when they saw several silver, disc-shaped objects in the sky. One of the objects landed in a field of brush and trees just beyond the edge of the playground. The children ran towards the landing site to get a better look. What they saw there would be seared into their minds forever. Standing near the craft was a small, humanoid figure. It was about 3 feet tall, a large head. The most terrifying feature was its eyes. They were huge, black, and oval-shaped. The being simply stood there, staring at the children. The children froze. Some began to scream and cry. The being then disappeared in a flash of light, and the craft silently lifted off and vanished. When the teachers came running out, the school's headmaster decided to have the children draw pictures of what they had seen. Separately, they all drew remarkably similar images: a silver saucer and a small black-eyed being. A Harvard psychiatrist, Dr. John Mack, traveled to Zimbabwe to interview the children. He was astonished by their consistency. They received messages about environmental destruction. The Ariel school sighting is profoundly disturbing, that these beings may be watching us, judging us, and delivering their silent warnings to our most vulnerable, our children. The night of August 21st, 1955, began as a normal evening for the Sutton family at their farmhouse. He saw a bright, multicolored light streak across the sky and disappear into the woods. A short time later, the family dog began barking furiously. Billy Ray and Elmer Lucky Sutton went to the back door to investigate and were met with a sight that defied belief. It was about 3 feet tall, with a large, round head, huge, pointed ears, and big, yellow eyes that glowed in the dark. The men, terrified, grabbed their shotgun and .22 rifle. As the creature came within 20 feet, they opened fire. The being was knocked backward, but it simply did a flip, got back on its feet, and scurried away. Moments later, another one appeared in a side window. They shot at it, shattering the glass, but the creature just disappeared. What followed was a nightmare siege that lasted for nearly 4 hours. The creatures seemed to be toying with them. The 2 men fired nearly 4 boxes of shells at the beings, but the bullets seemed to have no effect. The creatures would be knocked down only to get up and run away. Exhausted, the 11 people piled into their cars and fled to the Hopkinsville police station. Police found a house riddled with bullet holes and shattered windows, but no sign of the creatures. The Kelly-Hopkinsville encounter is a chilling tale of a home invasion, a terrifying reminder that our homes may not be the safe havens we believe them to be. The story of Betty and Barney Hill is the archetypal alien abduction case. On the night of September 19, 1961, the couple was driving home to Portsmouth, New Hampshire after a vacation in Canada. Driving through the desolate White Mountains, Betty noticed a bright point of light in the sky that seemed to be following their car. It moved erratically, growing larger and brighter. Barney got out with binoculars. Through the binoculars, he saw a pancake-shaped craft with a double row of windows and figures moving inside. Overcome with terror, he ran back to the car, screaming, "They're going to capture us!" He sped away. A loud, rhythmic buzzing vibrated through the car and their bodies. A drowsy, altered state washed over them. The next thing they knew, they were 35 miles down the road. Both watches stopped at the exact same time. A few days later, Betty's nightmares began. Short, gray-skinned figures with large, wraparound eyes, a long needle at her navel. Seeking help, the Hills underwent hypnotic regression. Betty's session revealed the missing time. Barney's told a chillingly similar story. Stopped on the road, taken aboard, examined. Their story, physical traces and psychological trauma, opened a dark door into a phenomenon that still haunts us. A fear that our lives and memories can be stolen from us on any lonely road, at any time. We've walked through the dark woods of Maine, stood on a lonely pier in Mississippi, and huddled in a besieged farmhouse in Kentucky. We have seen through the eyes of terrified children on a playground and felt the paralyzing fear of men whose lives were stolen for hours or even days. These stories are echoes of a profound and unsettling truth. They are the scars left behind when the veil between our world and another is momentarily torn away. They force us to confront a question that is as old as humanity itself. Are we alone in the universe? And if we are not, should we be afraid? The beings described are cold, clinical, and inscrutable. Their motives are unknown. They take, they examine, they observe, and they leave behind minds and bodies scarred by the experience. In their presence, we are not the dominant species on this planet. We are little more than specimens in a cosmic laboratory. This is the heart of the fear. It is the complete and utter loss of control. We look to the stars with powerful telescopes, sending out our own messages, announcing our presence to the void. What if the silence from the stars is not a sign that we are alone, but a cosmic warning? What if other, older civilizations have learned a terrible lesson, that it is better to remain quiet? They suggest that we should perhaps look up at the night sky, not with arrogance, but with a deep and abiding respect for the vast, silent darkness, and for whatever might be watching us from within it. The most terrifying truth may be that we are not alone, and our visitors have no intention of introducing themselves politely.